Welcome to another quick take here on the Fulhamish YouTube channel, looking back at our 2-1 win over Peterborough United last night at Craven Cottage. A good win for Fulham, a win that keeps us clear for the promotion race. But of course, the headlines dominated by one thing and one thing only: Aleksandar Mitrovic breaking the championship scoring record, now on 33 for the season. 31 was Ivan Toney's record to beat from last season, and he's made history. We'll come on to where he fits into the all-time scoring records in the second tier in a little bit. I know that it's a bit of a murky waters, the whole records thing, but still, big congrats to Mitro. 2 goals last night, the 2 winning goals for Fulham. And most importantly, though, 3 points for the Whites. And look, it was a difficult game, I felt like. Peterborough came there with one ambition and one ambition only: to make life difficult to Fulham, put a low block in, try and frustrate us, maybe hope for one on the break. There was nothing more to their play than that. And understandable. They sacked Duncan Ferguson after the weekend. Matty Etherington was in the dugout with Simon Davies. Good to see him back at the Cottage. And with a temporary manager, they were just trying to, I think, limit damage, really, limit what Fulham could do and just try and nick something. In the situation they're in, 23rd in the championship, I don't blame them for that strategy. With regards to Fulham, we made a couple of changes, didn't we, in the midfield? I think a lot of us expected this. Harrison Reed and John Mikel Seri coming in for Kearney, who was out with illness, apparently, and then Nathaniel Chalobah, who dropped to the bench. Not surprising, didn't play particularly great against Huddersfield, and I think it was time, definitely, for Seri to get his way back into the team after coming back from AFCON, and also Harrison Reed. And given the calibre of opposition, and no disrespect to Peterborough in this, I think it was the right call from Marco Silva. And it paid off well. I thought that both of them performed admirably. It was lovely to see Seri back in the middle of the park. A good game for him as well. He had the time and space, which is what Seri likes. He was pinging the ball left, pinging the ball right. It was a nice game. And it really stretched Peterborough. And particularly with them lining up with that low block, I think you need a player like John Mikel Seri who's going to stretch that play, make them work left, make them work right, and then we can create openings from that. So, yeah, it was good to see Seri back. And Cabano was back in the team. Harry Wilson dropped to the bench, and then Decadova Reed was on the right-hand side. And again, a decision I agreed with. Nothing against Harry Wilson, but he plays a lot of minutes for us. He hasn't really had a break in a long time, and I think that we have a bit of depth in the squad. We've got a lot of games coming up. It's wise to use the squad, and we can rotate things when absolutely necessary. But I thought it was a difficult opening half an hour, really, for Fulham. We didn't create an awful lot. We had so much possession. As I said, Peterborough were just there with their low block, but we just weren't carving out too much. And it was going to take moment of stupidity or a moment of brilliance to break the deadlock, and it was probably more a moment of stupidity, really. The penalty, I think, is a bit soft. I don't think there's a load of contact there, but ultimately he tries to challenge Mitrovic, and I think he just catches him. And a player like Aleksandar Mitrovic is never going to turn down the opportunity to try and win a penalty there. Fortunately, the referee went with it. And then we had the moment, didn't we? Aleksandar Mitrovic on the penalty spot. We knew that he'd equaled Ivan Toney's 31 goals in the championship season. Here was the moment for him to go outright as the top ever scorer in the championship. And there was no doubt from the spot, was there? And look, I don't think Mitrovic's penalties have always been the greatest in the past. I was there in the stands thinking, oh, don't miss this one, Mitrovic. This is not the time to fluffy lines from 12 yards. But he didn't, did he? Sent the keeper the wrong way, and Fulham went 1-0 up. And from then on, I think we were all fairly confident that Fulham were going to go on and win the match, but still didn't create too many more chances. But then in the second half, I think that Fulham really turned on the style. The second goal was a really, really nice move. Lovely bit of skill from Fabio Carvalho to set Neeskins Cabano away. A good cross into the box, and Mitrovic, unmarked, never going to miss from there to get it past Bender in the Peterborough goal. And up to 33 now for the season for Mitrovic. I think the only wonder from the game is how Fulham didn't score more. Mitro must have missed 2 maybe 3 gilt-edged chances. Harry Wilson had a good shot saved from Bender. Every shot just seemed to gravitate towards Bender in the Peterborough goal. He had a great game. Probably arguably man of the match, really, for the performance that he put in. And yeah, it should have probably been more like a 4, maybe even a 5-0. But Fulham couldn't get that third goal that really would have killed off any hope of a Peterborough comeback. And that's kind of what we got. 89th minute. Bit of poor defending, really. It went from one end to the other. Harry Wilson missed a good chance, well saved by Bender, and then the clearance almost fell straight into Peterborough's laps. Once again, Tosin rushing in with a challenge and not getting there. I think he needs to be a little less rash. He did it against Huddersfield. He's done it before. I think occasionally he takes the gamble and it doesn't always pay off. And I think someone needs to just sit Tosin down in front of a video and just work out, like, is that a good strategy? Because you quite often seem to be costing us there. And then with Tim Ream, you know, the legs that he's got, it's not fair to put Tim Ream against 2 strikers. He did his best, but ultimately 2 against 1. And a striker of Jack Marriott's quality is always going to finish a chance like that. It was well finished. It was arrowed into the top corner. And then the last 5 minutes became much nervier than it needed to be. But really, I don't think Fulham were ever going to throw away that game last night. We looked more likely to get the third than they did to get the equaliser, to be honest, in stoppage time. So it should have been a lot more, but ultimately 3 points is all that matters. We've been treated to a lot of brilliant goal scoring displays this season. I think remarkable that Peterborough have conceded 63 goals in the Championship this season. Yes, only 3 of them have been to Fulham, the Championship's runaway scorers. They seem to have done quite well in games defensively against us, but hey-ho, the Championship is unpredictable, and that is one of those things. So let's talk about Aleksandar Mitrovic's goal scoring record. So he's up to 33 goals, which takes him outright in the Championship scoring records. Now, the records here are a little bit murky, really. It's a difficult one, and I totally understand the arguments of people saying he hasn't really broken a record. The Championship started in 2004, 2005. So even Fulham's last time we won the second division first in 2001 doesn't count as a Championship season. It counts as a Division 1 season. So it's a bit odd, but still, you have to go back to 92-93 for the last time a player scored more goals than this in a second-tier season, which is still a remarkable achievement in itself. And I took this from Peter Rutzler's article on The Athletic, which is second-tier top goal scorers all time. And you can see Guy Whittingham, as I mentioned there, 42 goals in the 92-93 season. He is the top scorer in a 46-game season. And as you can see from all of those other records above or equal to Guy Whittingham, they're all from the 50s and 30s and 20s. To be honest, I don't know how much credence any of those statistics hold, really, for me. The game was so different back then. I mean, that George Campsell that scored 59 goals was actually in a 22 team league. And I think it just shows really how different football was. I don't think it's impossible for Mitro to be second on that list. You see 46 at the top. I genuinely think Mitrovic could get there. If he carried on at his current scoring rate, he would be on about 46, 47 goals, which is absolutely ludicrous. Of course, he's not matching 59. But really, for me, the record is Guy Whittingham, 42. He did it in a 46-game season. Football was fairly similar back in the early 90s to how it is now. Still very different in lots of ways. And, you know, it is hard to compare, but still is within recent-ish memory. So I think that is the record to achieve. If he gets it, for me, I would be confident saying he is the all-time second-tier goal scorer. Yes, there are other players, but it's so long ago that I think almost the records are defunct as far as I'm concerned. So well done to Aleksandar Mitrovic on a phenomenal achievement. By end of February, still 14 games to go, and he's beaten the record. He's already out in front as well because he got 2 goals last night. I do think it's possible for him to reach at least 40. And then it's just a bit of luck and circumstance. Can he stay clear of injuries? Do the chances fall to him whether he can beat Guy Whittingham? But it's going to be close, in my opinion. And just looking at the Championship League table, it was a good win last night. A good, particularly after that Huddersfield loss. I think that there might have been a few lingering, could Fulham really mess this up? Good to just put that to rest, I think, last night. The whole table is starting to look quite skewed because Bournemouth now have got 2 games in hand because their last 2 games have been called off for unrelated weather issues. And then you look at QPR, they did win last night. So did Huddersfield, both in the last minute. But Fulham's still 11 points out in front of both of them with 1 and 2 games in hand on each of them. Blackburn falling off a little bit of a cliff now. There's now a 13-point gap to them, still with a game in hand. I think we've said it for long. I think we can get more and more confident about promotion. I'm not going to put my neck on the line and say it's wrapped up, it's done, because I'm a Fulham fan. And until it's pretty much mathematical, I won't be doing that. The only thing I will say, we are staying up. That was confirmed last night. Fulham mathematically cannot get relegated anymore. So a good position to be in. And look, with Bournemouth's rearranged games, I think the title race is going to get quite late because they've got so many games to catch up later on in the season. You don't know how they're going to fare in those. It's going to not be until, I think, the last couple of games of the season before a league title is wrapped up either way, really. I sadly don't think we're going to be winning at Bournemouth anymore because of the way their games in hand fall. So a good night in terms of the league table. Hopefully we can get another win against Cardiff, get us to the 70-point mark, which would be a real milestone with so many games remaining. We'd have fully taken advantage, I think, of our February fixtures if we get that win at Cardiff. And I think we can. Cardiff are a bit of a stronger team than they were maybe a couple of months ago. And Sean Morrison's done a decent job there, but still a very beatable side. And their home record particularly has been abysmal. Cardiff. So I think we can go there and get a result. Right, let's have a look through some of your comments that have come through. On Tosin, James Baldwin, I think Tosin's confidence is sky high. As often he beats strikers doing that, but it can cost us occasionally. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to go too hard on Tosin, really, because I'm sure there are dozens of times per game where he is able to run off his line, pull off that move where he beats the striker, gets the ball and sets Fulham on their way to another stroke of possession. So maybe it's just high-risk tactics and it works. My worry would be about it going forward. I think particularly when you haven't got a pacey defender alongside you, it really does leave us wildly exposed. Maybe if next season in the Prem, we did hire a Ream replacement that had a lot more pace, maybe Tosin could get away with that challenge a lot more. But particularly with even pacier strikers and attackers next year, it does have me worried, and it does seem to be costing us quite a few goals. Darkwing just confirming what I said before. More importantly, we are now officially safe of relegation, which is always a relief. You can't ever, be too complacent. Oscar Rowland, the performance of their keeper from one of the worst defenses in the league just made Rodak seem even more shaky. I can't lie. Good backup keeper but not one for the Prem. I mean, I think the Rodak question is interesting. I do think that there is a debate to be had in the summer. He had a bit of a shaky moment last night where he got challenged by a Peterborough attacker and it wasn't the best. Don't think he could have done anything about the goal, though. It's an absolute rocket. Dan Cook on Mitro's record. Mitro would be all of those apart from Camsell on 59. I'll go back to it just here. Yeah, I do think that is very much a possibility, as I mentioned. And Darkwing said, what is interesting, Guy Whittingham played every game that season where Mitro has missed 2 games. I think that's what makes Mitrovic's record even more remarkable. He has not played every single minute for Fulham this season. So I think it's a good place to be. Well done to Aleksandar Mitrovic. I really hope that we can build on yesterday's win over Peterborough against Cardiff, get to the magic 70 points, And then I'm going to start getting very, very excited. I think if we can get that win on Saturday, tougher run of games coming up in March. We know about that. But we certainly started to just take advantage of games. And look, 3 points is 3 points. You can't beat teams 4 or 5-0 every week. Thank you for watching the quick take today. For more analysis on the Peterborough game, there'll be a podcast with Coops, Jack, and Peter coming out later today. But until then, thank you for watching. Come on, you Whites.